A warm good evening to everyone and a heartfelt welcome to today's discussion organized by Talking Films Online, also known as TFO. My name is Tanmay and I am your host for today's discussion. TFO began its journey with Professor Nikhila and Dr. Geeta Vishwanath in June 2020 during the lockdown. And over the years, TFO has metamorphosed from a spontaneous idea into an expanding community of cinephiles encompassing scholars, researchers, students, professors, filmmakers, and anyone passionate about cinema. We are delighted to have sustained this forum thanks to you, our dedicated participants, who gather every Saturday at 9 p.m. as per Indian Standard Time on Zoom to talk about cinema. It has been TFO's practice to invite individuals to select and lead discussions on chosen films, which participants are free to watch at their own time and place. TFO has the pleasure of hosting eminent filmmakers, professors, scholars, cinematographers, and editors like Aparna Sen, Amul Palekar, Girish Kasaravalli, and Adur Gopalakrishnan. Our journey has also included film festivals such as South Asian, East European, Iranian, Women Cinema, among others. Every June, TFO hosts a smartphone short filmmaking contest for students and organizes a lecture series in university departments to commemorate its anniversary. In September 2024, we organized our first offline event, an international seminar on Indian cinema in the digital era, in collaboration with FCT Baroda. This year, we also organized our second international conference in hybrid mode titled Screen to Street Decoding Cinema in Everyday Life in collaboration with Banwarilal Bhalotia College, Asansol, West Bengal. Now, friends, for tonight's discussion, we'll focus on the Marathi film Baipan Bhari Deva, directed by Kedar Shinde. The film has been chosen by Professor Madhuri Dixit, who will also lead the discussion today. It is my great pleasure to introduce Professor Dixit, who currently holds the position of professor as well as the head of the Department of English at Pemraj Sharda College, Ahilanagar, Maharashtra. Her research on the representation of women in Marathi theatre earned her a doctorate from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Her other two research projects, funded by the Savitribai Phule Pune University, studied the well-known Marathi playwright Vijay Tendulkar and the concept of archive for theatre, respectively. Her consistent academic interests include theatre and performance studies, cultural studies, education, and discourse on gender and caste. Apart from presenting her research in international conferences held in Germany, UK, and Swedish universities, she has also published scholarly essays on films, cultural issues, and Marathi theatre in reputed academic journals, and has also written frequently on socio-cultural issues in Marathi newspapers and magazines. She also serves on the editorial board of the well-respected Marathi journal Parivartanacha Vasaru. We are truly honored to have Madhuri ma'am with us today, and we look forward to an engaging and thought-provoking discussion. Now I'm handing over the mic to Professor Dixit. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, you are muted, ma'am. Your mic is.
Yeah, now am I audible, Tanmay?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, fine. So I said thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Dr. Geeta and Talking Films Online, as well as Nikhila, for inviting me to discuss this film. I'm really happy to be part of the wider and knowledgeable community of film audience here, and do look forward to your feedback, disagreement or agreement, queries, comments, etc. on the film, as well as on my observations and the arguments that I'm going to make about the film. So, at the beginning of this discussion, here is some statistical data which I would like to read from my laptop, which is collected in last 7 to 8 years by different agencies and published in different places. That will help us kind of understand the boost received by regional cultural productions, and B, the market share that they own today. In short, it provides some idea of the cultural economy of regional films. So the nuggets here are, number one, In 2019, Indian cinemas sold approximately 1.03 billion movie tickets, the highest volume globally. The average ticket price in Indian multiplexes rose to over 260 rupees in 2023. The Indian media and entertainment sector grew by 8% in 2023, reaching 2.3 trillion Indian rupees. In 2023 again, the Indian film segment revenue recovered to 197 billion rupees, surpassing pre-pandemic levels. Nearly 2,000 releases a year and an 8% revenue jump to rupees 2.3 trillion in 2023 show that India's film economy is accelerating faster than many expect. Family audiences, which is 3+ members in a family, constitute 40% of the footfall for blockbuster movies in India. Hindi language content consumption on OTT platforms dropped from 60% to 45% as regional content surged on the OTT platforms. And the share of regional box office in India rose from 30% in 2019 to over 50% in 2021-22. So all these informations, I hope, help us to kind of sketch the picture in which we can situate regional film industry. And I'm going to talk about a regional film today, which is a Marathi language film titled as Baipan Bhari Deva, womanhood is tough. It is translated in that way, or you can say it is bhari. The word bhari has two meanings here. Bhari could be heavy, so it's burdensome, and bhari could be awesome, excellent, very good. I mean, something which you can really boast of. So, what is womanhood? How is it imagined here? Let us see. So, well, the film that I have suggested or chosen for this discussion is, of course, part of the regional language film industry, and that is meaningful to me in more than one sense. Just as it means noticing the vernacular cultural discourse, it also means to understand how filmmaking attempts can arrive, quote unquote, arrive with assistance from corporate players in comparison with their arrival supported by erstwhile individual film producers, and how the region can prove disloyal even to its historical progressive legacy. So, thinking on these lines, let me first put my disclaimers on the table before I start the discussion. The film does not attempt to experiment with or push the boundaries of its visual language in areas such as cinematography, use of colors, or register of acting, or employing sound, for instance. I think your experience, which you may have had before this discussion, of watching the film might be in tune with this observation, and you might have found this film to be a little ordinary. Hence, there is not much that we can discuss in terms of technique or production. But what may interest and intrigue us is its popularity, its narration, its message, and its statement, and to situate it in its socio-cultural political context, and to see what the film achieves as a cultural product. So the questions that can be asked of this film are different in the sense they do not originate from its cinematic vocabulary, but from its narrative choices and its existence at a historical moment. The Marathi language film Baipan Bhari Deva, directed by Kedar Shinde, was released in June 2023 and became an instant hit. It is a Geo Studio production which gathered around 37 crore rupees in the first 2 weeks, which is said to be next to the collection made by another very famous Marathi film called Sairat, directed by Nagaraj Manjure. Baipan Bhari Deva, this film was released in more than 550 theaters across India, and approximately 15,000 shows were presented in a week. This is called to be a very revitalizing moment and achievement for Marathi cinema. Nikhil Sane of Geo Studio anticipates that 95% of Marathi women must have seen this film. He was talking on a show called ABP Mazha Katta, where he mentioned this fact. It is reported that women throng to the theatres, causing women-only special shows in many places. Women are said to have gone in groups in cities and in towns, sometimes traveling in bullock carts even in rural parts of the state. They are said to have danced in the theatre, asking to replay the numbers after the film was over. They are also reported to jostle in front of the film poster to take selfies wearing similar goggles in imitation of the poster. The overpowering number of women audiences pushed the men into minority audiences, which is indeed a rare sight in Indian theatres, I believe. So much so that men started branding this film as women's film. Newspaper reports also noted that such large number of women audiences flocking to a Marathi film could be seen only for the second time in Marathi film culture. The first instance being the release of the blockbuster film Maherchi Sadi, which was directed by Vijay Kondke, and it was released in 1991, portraying the story of a suffering daughter-in-law. After watching Baipan Bhari Deva, audiences have reportedly come out of the movie hall with moist eyes, as happened in case of the other film, the previous film, Maherchi Sadi. This kind of reception surely generated a largely feminine film culture, however temporary, that showcased trends like clicking group photos wearing goggles and revival of dances traditionally performed for the Mangala Gaur ritual for school gatherings. The dances were, kind of presented in school gatherings, annual functions, and for making Instagram reels and YouTube shorts as well. Captions like, quote unquote, dancing to the soulful beats of Baipan Bhari Deva, celebrating the strength, achievements, and spirit of women, are found abundantly in social media. The actors have praised the reception by calling it as historical. Vandana Gupte, who plays the role of the retired second sister Shashi, has compared the film with a well-known and well-appreciated feminist play titled as Char Chaugi, which has actually made history in Marathi theatre, in which women ask tough questions. According to her, there was a time when women used to be thankful to this play for awakening them to their situation. Today, women audiences are thanking this film. So this is how the film was appreciated, praised, eulogized by actors, producers, director, as well as some audiences and even some critics. Such success of the film and the reported gratefulness shown by women audiences to the film make me wonder what must have clicked with women audiences to cause such enthusiasm. What did they really identify with in the film is an intriguing question for me. One may ask, well, tongue in cheek, how has the film really tricked the audiences into believing its story? Now, one of the main reasons for popularity of this film, especially among women audiences, appears to be the portrayal of everyday life. You have seen the film, I assume. That's why I'm not going into the details of the story. The portrayal of everyday life with relation to the personal stories of the sisters. And as you know, there are six sisters of different ages. All of them are married and they are fighting with their own problems in their lives. There is no specific reason as to why we have six sisters in the story. I mean, it is not provided by the director even when he was asked in that ABP Maza Katta TV show why he chose six sisters to portray the story and why not six brothers. But he said they are just there. So six sisters. But it may be explained that the number is required for providing space for fair variety of women's problems as it occurs to me. Just as the range of discomfort, past misunderstandings, inner conflicts, dilemmas, resentment, and disappointment in marriage, as shown in the film, is representative of the everyday, larger womanhood. So are the ages, attitudes, responses, and health problems of the sisters. Additionally, the locale of the city Mumbai, well recognized for its burdensome ultra-consciousness of time, contributes substantially to the absence of space in the lives of these characters. Identification with regional social practices and family relations probably come across as the central signs of cultural belonging. And I quote Sangeeta Datta here for women audiences, fandom for the film. Kitchen, office, children, aged relatives, parental house, shopping, religiosity, shoestring budgets, commutation, domination are some examples of motifs smartly incorporated in the movie that urban Marathi women audiences could easily relate with. There are deceptive dialogues, such as, I quote, never once in our lives did we live for ourselves. Nobody says, stop, breathe a little. This is why we need a break from our hectic schedules, etc. etc. However, many viewers don't seem to notice the gimmick of the film, namely, not reflecting over the real problems of life. And this gimmick gets amply clarified towards the end of the film, if you remember, when the song Baipan Bhari Deva runs at the backdrop and resolutions made by the women characters as solutions to their personal problems are conveyed in a quick sense of images. And what are those images? There are two sisters, Shashi and Jaya. They patch up their differences. The banker sister, who is what's her name? Pallavi? No. Well, I'm not getting the name right now. The banker sister sells her car to repay loan borrowed by her husband, and the resort manager's sister, she busies herself with her profession. The fearful and singer sister engages herself with art classes. The non-earning sister buys a cell phone with her own money, etc., etc. This quick succession of images in which we see that the eldest one is now going on a tour. She is going to travel with her husband for tourism purpose. The youngest one is swimming in the swimming pool, and the one who took the lead in gathering all the sisters and preparing for the competition has compromised with her counterpart, which is the mother-in-law of her daughter, and they're all walking together on a footpath, etc., etc. So this kind of quick succession of images towards the end show how the sisters resettle in life, and the movie doesn't provide any discussion of the process or of even the possible resistance that they may have had to overcome. Ultimately, neither the ritual nor the resolution of reality find an elaborate space in the film beyond mere iconic resemblances. Subsequently, what makes up for most of its visuality is the competition, the dance competition, the Mangalagaur dance competition. This clever move of not letting materiality slip through the narrative, yet not rendering even enough space for its discussion, helps the film to uphold the goodness of dance competition as the seeming savior, while the foil of material reality succeeds in earning empathetic responses from the audiences. And that is how the film actually plays with, let's say, rationality and emotionality of audiences. An important aspect of the film that we should note to gain answers to our questions is that the film transforms a cultural practice into an activity which is suitable to the neoliberal market. For that, it relies on the current popular infatuation with dance as perhaps the only expression of joy and gesture of participation in various celebrations. Dancing in the Bollywood style is perhaps the newfound love of Indians, and that is my personal opinion or observation. Indian people appear to dance today in weddings, in gatherings, in parties, in competitions, in reels and shorts, despite their age, health problems, or even suitable reason or occasion. Most of the film is occupied with the sisters' preparation for the competition, which includes cleaning the ancestral house for their dance practice sessions, inviting fitness trainer, preparing props required for the dance, and you see all those they are utensils made of bamboo. You also see them in some stills from the movie if you just browse social media or newspaper reports. So there are some props that they use. Hiring jewelry, they hire some jewelry and costumes. Yeah, they take costumes on rent. Even buying some suitable lingerie, and they are shown to sip green tea even if they don't like to drink it. There are plenty of images that show their enthusiasm, their practice sessions, their tiredness, their chilling out, and even their wild joy when they get to know that they have received a wild card entry in the competition. Later, the full dance also features in the film when they participate in the competition. Abundance of such images constructed around the Mangalagaur competition suggests that the film knows what needs to be ingrained in the mind of the audiences, the market that consumes ever new cultural spaces. How the film uses Mangalagaur is indeed a case in point in this regard. Director Kedar Shinde says in the TV show that he had used Mangalagaur as the working title of the film until a friend pointed out that people may think it to be a film about the goddess Mangalagaur, which it did not want to be. It is interesting to see how the film delinks the ritualistic religious features of Mangalagaur from its celebratory aspects and resituates that ritual or that cultural practice in a newfound market driven cultural space. In doing so, it also creates a new conversation across media and public events on one hand, while evoking memories of old Marathi films that show Mangalagaur in all of its religious and domestic form. Mangalagaur is an old ritual. It is a kind of worship of the female deity Gauri, which is life of Lord Shiva, performed primarily in the Marathi linguistic region of India by newly married Hindu but upper caste women. A unique feature of this annual worship is that, apart from the faith and religiosity which is invested in it, it is also an occasion for women to celebrate, relish, and play, mainly because it is women specific cultural space and the ritual is accompanied with dances, songs, and indoor games during the night. So, women are supposed to remain awake throughout the night, all the time, singing songs, dancing, playing games, and eating refreshments, etc. The playful aspect of the ritual is so prominent that women call it as playing Mangalagaur and not simply as worshipping Mangalagaur. However, the ritual is marked by caste as it is associated with some upper castes such as the Brahmin and sometimes Maratha caste in some part of the state and symbolizes patriarchy since the female worshipper is primarily seen as a housewife, a married woman, praying for the well-being of her family and her husband. Mangalagaur games, dances, and lyrics also have, on the other side of the picture, they also have a playfully subversive quality because many lyrics contain repartees satirizing the in-laws family while praising the parental family in a competitive spirit. So, usually, when a Mangalagaur is played, there are two groups of women. I mean, the women are divided into two groups and they sing songs line by line. And they, in those songs, they criticize their in-laws and they praise their parents and brothers and sisters and siblings. Nevertheless, rationally speaking, Mangalagaur ritual worship has become a museum piece today and it is disconnected with the present. And this should have actually discontinued it long ago, so to say, but that has not really happened. The theme of Mangalagaur dance competition constructs this film to be a unique and layered example of intertextuality. Now, this is a tricky and a heavy critical term to use here, intertextuality. But what I mean by that is that this film, in a way, participates in the conversation, which is kind of artistic conversation or mediated conversation, we can say, around the ritual of Mangalagaur. And how it does that, we'll shortly see. And I will also show you some screen grabs from those older movies as well as some screen grabs from the movie that we are discussing right now, Baipan Bhari Deva. We can say that this film, Baipan Bhari Deva, can and cannot establish a relation of intertextuality with other films produced from the 1960s and which present the ritual of Mangala Gaur. And some of the films that I would like to tell you about here is Kanyadan, which is directed by Vasanta Prabhu and it was made in 1960. Another is Bhagya Lakshmi, which was directed by Anant Mane in 1962. Chandanachi Chori Anga Anga Jari, directed by Shantaram Vankudre, that is V. Shantaram, in 1975, and Hardi Kumku, again directed by Anant Mane, produced in 1979. And Rama Madhav, which is in comparison with these movies, that is a recent one, directed by Mrunal Kulkarni and produced in 2014. The main difference between these erstwhile films and Baipan Bhari Deva regarding Mangala Gaur contains the nature of entertainment the ritual offers, the faith that is placed in it and its purpose. So in those older movies, what we see is Mangala Gaur is portrayed to be a domestic affair. I mean, it is not presented as such or performed as such in front of any audience, but it is played and performed, worshipped in the courtyard or in the house itself. And all the women who come to participate in that ritual worship are supposed to be either relatives or friends of the newly married woman. And all of them take part in it. They sing, they dance, they eat, they sing the devotional songs, etc., etc. But here in Baipan Bhari Deva, what we see is that there is no ritual worship as such. No Mangala Gaur is performed. It's only the dance which is talked about, but the dance is also not performed in any domestic space as such. It is performed on a stage, and that is supposed to be a competition. So there are different groups who are competing with one another to win in the competition. This kind of spirit and attitude is not there. Is not supposed to be there when a Mangala Gaur ritual puja or worship is done. So, in the form of competition, the ritual is made to be an external, commoditized reason for reawakening the solidarity among the sisters who have their own confrontations and problems, for mending familial relationships, and for the exploration of a relatively independent identity for the women in the story. Baipan Bhari Deva thus breaks from the intertextuality of cinematic representations of Mangala Gaur as observed in the erstwhile Marathi films by not presenting it as a ritual, instead making it a market-controlled vehicle of satiating personal jealousy. Because if you remember, why they go and participate in the Mangala Gaur competition is because there is this sister, number 2, Shashi, who wants to compete with her daughter's mother-in-law and wants to prove that she is better than the mother-in-law. And therefore, she persuades all the sisters to come together to make a team and participate in it. So, if the visual abbreviation of Mangala Gaur as contained in this movie is thus delinked from its Hindu religious context, it creates a question for the conscious audience as to what triggers the enthusiastic participation of the sisters who are urban women in the Mangala Gaur competition. Baipan Bhari Deva, produced in 2023, does not make the ritual worship take place in the life of any of its characters. So there is no question of faith or no faith in it. The characters are not seeking the blessings of the goddess, rather they are interested in winning the competition. The film instead uses the occasion to bring out the broken reality of marriage for the six sisters without mending it in any conventional ways. Ketaki taunts Pallavi about her enthusiasm in dancing when Pallavi is on the verge of getting a divorce from her husband. Baipan Bhari Deva presents Mangala Gaur competition organized by market forces, turning it into a commodity for entertainment of the public. with the global scale neoliberalism and changed nature of leisure standing at the backdrop. Since it is a competition, it also involves judgment that is otherwise absent in the traditional celebration. Now, there is an interesting moment in the film when the sisters seem to have lost everything because they cannot reach the first round of the dance competition in time. Disappointed, they all reach the local railway station where, coincidentally, they watch a flash mob dance on one of the lyrics of Mangalagaon. Irritated by the ultra modern dance steps performed by the youngsters in the group, the sisters show them the right traditional dance steps. Subsequently, in the present age of social media, the sisters' dance goes viral and the organizers allow them wildcard entry in the competition. The rituality, spirituality, sacredness, all of these qualities of the dances, Mangalagaon dances, lose all their shine completely to become just another dance competition in the real world of social media. This kind of weak yet interesting link in the film is very symbolic, I find, of the mood of the nation and cultural nationalism at present, since it suggests that we as a people can balance the contradictory demands of technology on one hand, globalized media, and vague pride in remote traditions. At this point, we can talk of the cultural politics and the cultural economy promoted, knowingly or unknowingly, you may say, by the film. It is a cultural product, a cultural text created by the neoliberal capital to note its producers, budget, and the profit that the film earned. Following its popularity, different groups, schools, institutions in the linguistic region organized Mangalagaon dance competitions, and I myself have seen such posters, such advertisements on the roads in my own city, in my own town. The film sanctions and justifies commoditization of culture in the form of dance competition is anybody's guess, but it should be noted that it upholds the Brahminical culture and thereby contributes to the soft power of Hindu national culture by skillfully letting the focus slip from real problems of patriarchal families to the perceived success in the competition by not choosing any marginalized Hindu cultural form but the upper caste ritual. It attempts to create a generalized, imaginary, homogeneous cultural identity, despite the internalized mention that Mangalagaon is not our culture by one character, one male character, Anna, who is Sadhna's father in law. Anna's voice is certainly a dissenting voice that the film has noted, but it proves a weak voice as he is shown to be a patriarch and that too from another caste who defeats the dreams of his daughter in law, and therefore his argument can be easily dismissed in the scheme of the narrative. The film subtly engages popular religious sentiments by upholding caste specific ritual, Mangalagaon ritual, but does so unashamedly in the interest of the market forces because it shows a competition for which it requires to transform the domestic ritual into a public competition. In neoliberal India, under the right wing rule that is known to be premised on the promise of making the nation a Hindu nation, these are not mutually exclusive or contradictory factors. Baipan Bhari Deva thus breaks from the historical intertextuality of cinematic representations of Mangalagaon by not presenting Mangalagaon as a ritual, instead making it a market-controlled vehicle of satiating jealousy, which happens to mend the familial relationships too. So here I have tried to see and understand and explore too the conversation that is created by the film and how does this film converse with the predecessor films and how does it create a conversation in the contemporary, that is how does it kind of uh, inspire the other media to talk about Mangalagaon, because after this film was released, we have seen that there were many Mangala Gaur episodes in the TV serials. There were many dance competitions in reality, and there were many reels and shorts made on the dance numbers. So appreciated for this film usually is appreciated for wonderful acting and a sleek kind of presentation. It was well received for all the belly laughs and the weepings in it. It is very much identified with the resonating narrative comprising shadows of past grievances and present day tensions. And I quote Ramnath, who has criticized the movie, in the lives of women. And the film is perceived as an ode to sisterhood, basically for focusing the narrative on women characters. So, in this way, reading culturally embedded visuality and emotional import of the film helps to interpret it as a cultural product. While interpreting its meanings for women in a regional cultural space, it finds that silence over meanings of the chosen ritual, unquestioning support for market initiative, and non exploration of systemic reasons for women's sufferings are the three fronts on which this film loses its significance as a popular film. Baipan Bhari Deva sets up an interesting moment of resurgence of conservative Hindu Brahminical culture in art forms, prompted by contemporary cultural politics of rightist ideologies, actively shared by market forces and the media. It mirrors intricate operations of media, patriarchy, and cultural nationalism for completely changing the meaning of feminine agency in the region, that is the state of Maharashtra, which is known to have fought for the rights of women and to have led anti caste struggles. Its popular perception as women's film does not qualify it to be a film about agency or empowerment of women, as it follows, in my view, the neoliberal logic in its content and presentation. It has to tell a story that gets resolved in the end, just like any other Marathi movie. Women audiences' response to the film certainly marks its sympathy for their plight, but it cannot replace serious reflection on systemic reasons. And therefore, I call this as the Janus faced Marathi cinematic movement. I tried to find answers to some of the questions, and this is what I would like to conclude in my presentation. So I really am not able to say that this movie takes women's fight or struggle one step ahead, but I rather say it as pulling them back, and therefore I hesitate to call this as the movie of contemporary times or of the present, and a movie which is really women centric. Thank you. Now we can, I think, open it for discussion. But if you allow me, I would like to show you some visuals from the older movies. Is it Tanmay? Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me just share. Okay. So, yeah. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am. It is
So the
visible.
first, yes. So it's just a simple slide presentation. In the first photograph, I am showing you the women audiences which thronged the theaters, which flocked to see the movie. So some of the shows actually became women-only shows in theaters. Now, here is the poster of the movie. And women used to stand in front of this poster to take photos wearing similar goggles. So that became quite a trend. Then you see the third photograph, which is from a school program, which is uh, broadcast on YouTube or something. So I have this as a screen grab where the young children, the girls are dancing on the song of Baipan Bhari Deva. Now you see another one. This is right from Ohio, which is Marathi Mandal of Northwest Ohio. And here you see that the Marathi women residing in Ohio are dancing on the same dance number. And you can see that they are just imitating the actions, because in this photograph, which is again a screen grab from the movie, you see similar gestures, similar movements. Fine. Now, this is a very interesting, let's say, visual that I find in the movie. This is quite a serious character, right? Jaya, who is actually seeing a counselor. But the way she is introduced in the beginning of the movie, too hot to handle, etc., etc. And I mean, one can get almost a wrong kind of impression about her nature, about her problem, and even about the gravity of her problem. Okay, another one that I would like to call your attention to is how the market, enters the narrative. These sisters have gone to a mall and they are shopping their lingerie, and they're talking about how expensive the lingerie is, etc., etc. So you are actually shown it's like it's a very old penchant of Marathi film industry. I guess that the movies all the time try to enlighten the audiences, try to teach them something. So now, under the neoliberal regime, it seems that the movies will also teach us what to buy, how to buy, and where to buy, etc., etc., and how it is going to be useful to your existence or everyday life. Fine. Another kind of merchandise that I find in the movie, because um kind of audiences or women, they tried to wear and buy such blouses on which the relationships that women have with the men folk, the words are embroidered like Bahin is sister, Mulgi is daughter, I is mother, etc., etc. So it's kind of the film giving some ideas. Well, that's a very usual thing in Indian film industry. Now coming to the older movies. Here you find a visual from 1960s film Kanyadan. You can see that the lady who is standing in the middle of the visual is the newly wed woman, and all other ladies are probably her friends or relatives, and they are singing a devotional song. But they are doing that in the house itself. Now, there's another one which shows the women playing the games and singing songs. This is from 1962 movie Bhagya Lakshmi. This is another grab from the same movie. Here you see, you may find similar gestures in the movie under discussion. Let me show you another visual which shows the actual puja, the worship, and how the things are on put on display, and how what kinds of objects are kept for the worship. It's a small thing. There is one copper pot, and the rest of the things are the auspicious kind of things. Sometimes, if the household is the family is very rich, then they can have the idol. Now, this is from 1960s movie. The idol is of Mangala Gaur. Then coming back to, this is a grab from one of the movies, Hardi Kunku, I guess. I forgot to give the title to this slide. Anyway, This is from 2014 movie Rama Madhav. They are again celebrating Mangala Gaur here. Then I would like to call your attention to the three visuals from the movie Baipan Bhari Deva, where they come towards the end of the movie and they show how the patch up is done, the compromise is done, and how they are all enjoying and they're all happy now. But the ways of happiness are very cliched or very stereotyped. Here you see that Shashi has patched up with the mother-in-law, and her daughter is also very happy and healthy. Then in another scene you find that Jaya is going for a tour with her husband, and that means you are buying something or kind of celebrating something by spending some money. And in the third graph, you find this Spanker sister having a nice time in the swimming pool. So this is how it goes. Now, after this movie, Mangala Gaur actually became very popular, it seems, because even in TV serials like this one, which is Khulta Kari Khulena, that is the title of the serial, you see the ladies performing the dances. So, separate episodes were devoted to the ritual. So, in this way, it actually tried to create a conversation, but I mean, if you explore it and if you see the cultural politics of it, then you have lots and lots of questions regarding it. Anyway, so I'll now stop sharing and we can now discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a wonderful discussion.
Yeah.
Now, before I open the mic for everyone, I want to make a small announcement that just like today's talk, TFI organizes such a wonderful talks every Saturday at 9 p.m. via Zoom. So the participants can join us for such wonderful discussions, and they can also follow us by joining our WhatsApp group. And I'm going to share the link of the WhatsApp group in the chat. Now, the dais is open for everyone, and I will request the participants to please come up with your questions and comments if you have any.
Can I come in, Tanmay?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Madhuri, for that excellent presentation. I really enjoyed it, as well as your very insightful reading of the film. And it's very interesting that you began by saying that, there is nothing that can really be discussed in terms of the technique because there is nothing innovative. It's very ordinary. And in fact, when I started watching the film, one of the first things that struck me was that it is so much like a web series. The costumes, and
Yes.
then the women characters and all of that. So it actually felt like, watching something like maybe Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi in the form of a film. And so that's why I found your opening remarks really interesting. And uh, another thing was that the film, uh, you know, what is nice about it is it brings middle-aged women as the protagonists, which is something, quite different in popular cinema.
Yes.
And also this whole in like, we know that tradition is not really tradition in that sense, but it is, invention and reinventions of tradition that happens all the time. So this whole, reinvention of the Mangla Gaur ritual, which, as you rightly pointed out, also aligns with the neoliberal market forces, as well as the cultural nationalism of the present times. That's absolutely right about what you said. I totally agree with you about that. Uh, but it is also about how women are not exactly rejecting tradition, but are kind of, finding ways of inhabiting it and reinterpreting it, and finding some kind of a meaning, because if we look at the film also, even all their problems and everything seem to have been resolved through involvement in this ritual, in their participation in the competition and all of that. And it also and the way it I really liked the way you those slides that you showed, and how this film popularized this ritual. Reminded me of a very old film, I think way back in 1975 it was made, that Jai Santoshi Ma, where they actually kind of brought in this very new deity into the Hindu pantheon, and everybody was, keeping those fasts and celebrating those pujas and all of that. So, as you were speaking about its popularization in the everyday cultural practices amongst upper caste Hindu women, it kind of struck me that this is something that happened way back in the 70s as well, with regard to the this whole mythology of Santoshima. Thank you, Madhuri. Thank you very much for that excellent presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Geeta. And yes, you've correctly pointed that out. And I'm just thinking that how gods are made and remade in India in all the ages, So, just to add to your observation, I would like to mention one example. It is a kind of tradition that was made right in front of our eyes, so to say, because this festival of Navratri. In Maharashtra, I'm not aware whether this has spread to other parts of India or not. But in Maharashtra, women have started wearing saris of one particular color on one day, and they wear 9 colors on 9 days. And who decides these colors? We don't know. So this gets automatically, published through social media or even through newspapers, etc., etc. Actually, this kind of practice started just a decade and a half back by a sari shop, in fact, which actually, I mean, to promote its products or saris, it started publishing the color of the day every day in the newspaper, and also started publishing photographs of women who were wearing saris, group photographs in the newspaper. And maybe women were enchanted by those photographs coming in newspaper every day, and women started sending them photographs, etc., etc. And gradually, it became a tradition, so to say. So now, if you are not wearing that specific color on that day, your women friends can ask you, what has happened? Have you forgotten to wear this particular color? So they will remind you of that. And this has almost taken the shape of a traditional kind of, conventional kind of practice. So that I have observed right here in my place and all over Maharashtra. So it's very interesting the way things, are developed like this. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What you say,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Madhuri.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nikhila, ma'am, you want to say something?
Yeah. Madhuri, thank you so much for a wonderful reading of the film. And thank you for suggesting the film for us, for TFO, because it's a film that is so rich in terms of its discussion potential, evidenced by your own wonderful reading, of the film. I was thinking about, how to, I was thinking of two intertexts, so to speak, to borrow the term that you were using to discuss this film. One is, I was thinking of this play by Girish Karnad called Bikre Bimbo, Broken Images, which again talks about, what can be called as so-called sibling rivalry or rivalry among sisters, and the kind of monumental proportions that this rivalry can take, right? So in a way, this film is also talking about the pain of life lived in the shadow of such rivalry throughout one's lifetime. And as you said, I mean, the resolution is very pat, and it's almost as if it kind of ends in a very happy way and satisfactory way for everyone, given that that's how narrative resolutions often end up with. So there are very few films in that sense that talk about a sibling rivalry, that too, as Geeta was saying, of middle-aged women, and the bitterness that can run in families, which very few films may want to speak as starkly as this film does. So in a sense, I thought that was fairly interestingly done in the film. The other, which, while watching this film, Tarakeshwar reminded me of another film that we had discussed, another Marathi film that we had discussed on TFO called, I think it's called Nach Ga Guma, which is again about the preparation for a competition. It's framed within again a middle class household, and the way in which the maid and the lady of the house kind of have this love-hate relationship and so on. So I was just trying to make sense of what this competition particularly for women and means in today's times. If one were to understand what this stands for, and why that seems to somehow hold answers to problems, because you see that in Nach Ga Guma and this as well. If we remember that in the beginning of this film, when Shashi is retiring, I think, and they have this musical chairs, there is a parody that comes across in the beginning, that, she's a go-getter, that to get the chair, she will do anything. So women who want to move upward, I mean, who want some movement, in their lives, some mobility in their lives, are made into such ridiculous and monstrous figures. So in a sense, any kind of upward mobility is cut off by turning them into monsters. So when one can't think of a career, if one were to think of a career as some way of upward mobility or whatever, I mean, what is there for a housewife? So a competition allows you some sense of accomplishment, some sense of reaching somewhere, which is otherwise either not available, or when it's available and you pursue it, it is, you're turned into a ridiculous figure, or as a monster, as this film itself does. So I was just wondering, in our society, is that the kind of function that games are taking today? I mean, there is one reading that you offered of the games, the family, bonding and coming together. But also I was wondering if this is one way in which some sense of moving, mobility, accomplishment, showcasing, also this sense of working towards a goal, which, visible, a tangible goal, not just about, okay, my son will, become a good boy or whatever. Not that as a goal, but something that I can do. So I was just wondering if that is the space, that these games seem to be opening up for women. And the last third point I want to make is the very mediatization of festivals, or the dance, as you said very rightly, kind of plucking it out of its ritual context and showcasing it in a very different, like one is of course the game show, which was there even in the era of television, but now in the era of social media, in the form of reels, infinitely replicable, kind of dances and whatever, which going viral is a big is virtually the turning point, in the film's narrative. So this mediatization, maybe we may need to understand that moment also, was what I was, thinking while watching this film. It's spawned off a number of thoughts in many directions, Madhuri, and all thanks to you for the film suggestion and also for the wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tanmay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. May I ask others to come up with their question or comment if you have any? The mic is yours. Anyone with any question or comment on this film? Sanjay sir, do you have anything to say? Sridhar sir, you have any comment to make? Hello? Tarakis sir, you have any comment to make or any question to ask? Okay, so I have one observation. My thinking is not well net, because when I was like watching the film, I did not actually thought about it. It came to my mind when Madhuri ma'am was talking about this material existence of the film, and Geeta ma'am also noted that film Jai Santoshima. So I remember when that film came out, it was almost a pilgrimage, like watching that film. We sat together, our entire family sat together. We used to have cable TV at that time, so it was telecasted at 2 p.m. In the afternoon, and we sat together like watching some Devi on the TV. Okay, and apart from that, I was just thinking. So few days ago, I wrote a report on a lecture that is the by Monia ma'am for our second international conference by TFO. So she talked about the material existence of a film after everything is done. I mean, when the film has been showcased in the theater and it is dead. Basically, the audience is not looking at it anymore. So what happens with the reels, with the tapes and everything? But during this film, I noticed this ever presence of material things like embedded in these narratives. Like one thing I noticed that when the film opened, there is a very visual presence of this caravan radio set, right? So obviously that is there, and that the lady, one of the sister, she was listening to this music, and then the politics of saris, the ornaments, and one of the sister are showcasing her jewelry, and later they are talking about they should buy ornaments and laminated ornaments and on, and then also there's innerwears and everything. So the film is not only a commentary on the women and women's self-preservation or their existence, but is also, I believe, this commentary on the material culture, like how cinema influences this materiality. Like I think it begins with when George Lucas, I mean, he released Star Wars, and he then released the merchandise based on Star Wars. It's all started from there, right? So I liked it very much, like when cinema talked about more than the story, like this material presence all around us and other things. That's what I want to say, man.
Yeah, very true, Tanmay. But this is not really a new phenomena, I think. What is new is the scale of it now. I mean, it used to be there even in Hindi film industry or even in regional films. Um, Objects would be shown on screen, the characters would use them, and sometimes that was the secret way of advertising those objects. That was there, but the way the recent productions, recent cultural productions like cinema, the way it tries to establish their validity, and what Nikhila ma'am was also saying that whether competition could be the resolution, could be a remedy for the sibling rivalry, So it to me it appears that all these serious strands of the narratives, they are not well tied towards the end. I mean, the film doesn't want to spend time and energy on explaining that part of the story. Rather, it would be kind of easy remedy or easy kind of solutions it will try to get, and that is happening now through the market. So there should be some platform, some organization, some kind of mall like institution which would organize a competition, and people will go and participate in it, and because of the participation or because of the preparation for the competition, their mutual relationships are also getting straightened, or getting untangled, etc., etc. So this way the logic is very kind of uh, uh, it's not very convincing to me, at least. The way it tries to emphasize a few things and tries to use some things with some different intention. So one needs to read films, I think, very carefully, and we should also mm, consider the kind of the praise that the movie has gathered, that it empathizes with the plight of women, with a pinch of salt, I guess. Because what kind of empathy and for what is it shown, etc., etc. All those questions, they remain unanswered in the end. So that is what I wanted to point out. Anyway, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone who wants to add anything? Tarkesh sir, you have any comment to make?
An interesting movie, and also Madhuri has raised in several issues and trying to read why this big movie became very popular in the Marathi public sphere and gave rise to lot of intertext later on. Not only it is taking on the intertext earlier, but it also gives rise to several intertexts later on. There are two, three issues here. One, why there should be a tight ending to the story. Why not it be a loose ending? I'm asking it very frivolously. Somewhere we are expecting that it should solve the issues that it has raised. Maybe the plot raises several issues, and somebody pointed out that it's more like episodic because there are six sisters, so it could be a kind of six episodes, but it is neatly interwoven on these episodes. Uh, but whether there is a narrative conclusion to each of those things, it tries. But whether it is offering the conclusion that we are expecting it, that is a different issue. If it had offered a conclusion that we are expecting, then I don't think it would have become popular. So the narrative is set in a context of, as you rightly pointed out, both liberal economic situation, number one. Number two, what we identify as rise of right-wing politics. In fact, the text can be seen as a kind of symptom of what is happening in these two contexts. So in that sense, I would say that I should be grateful to this text to bring those issues to the fore. Whether it is uh, finding a solution to it, I don't think we do also have many solutions to the problems. That is a different issue. Unless we question the larger forces that are shaping the situation itself. And how do we question it? Can we find an answer to it, even outside of the film narrative? I don't think I have any easy solution to any of these problems. So, in that sense, expecting it from a movie of 2 hours, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes would be a little problematic. That aside, I think the movie is offering a kind of to rethink about women's agency. So why this movie is popular? Because it foregrounds women's agency, and it's foregrounding women's agency, how they acquire this agency. We all see that they're caught up in a particular kind of structure, and somehow this competition offers them a kind of agency. Yes, this women's agency, how does it come up? Uh, Not only that, a certain kind of feminist discourse will provide you an agency to understand and critique the patriarchal values, or a kind of leftist agency will also mobilize you and award you a certain kind of agency for its own politics. Similarly, right wing politics also mobilizes women and awards certain kind of agency to it. So in that sense, there's a lot of discussion and study about uh, the visibility of women in politics. For example, Uma Bharti and others, Sadhya Pragya, the kind of agency that they exercised uh, and became visible in the post 90s scenario was accorded by a certain kind of right wing discourse. So, in that sense, both modernity and then the post-liberal economy also awards certain kind of agency to women. So, in that sense, how these women are, if I have to put it in a different way, women are trying to find their own agency in the context of right-wing discourse. Look at this bank employee. She is able to confront her father-in-law using this as a kind of tradition. So she's not going out of the way, use the tradition, use the goddess, and then participation in it, and then a societal acceptance of thus participation to counter and negotiate our own uh, position within the family power structure. So in that sense, who using whom? Whether the liberal economy and the right-wing discourses are using women, or women are using this condition to negotiate their own power structure. So in that sense, there could be an alternate way of reading things, the text. One is to understand the narrative of the way narrative culminates and what it offers. Another is to place the text in the context of its production and see what kind of narrative is made possible in this context. The other is to see the reception part of it. So, how the Marathi public sphere has received it, uh, and how their own agency comes into being in appropriating it for their own politics. And all these practices that are happening, whether in the college or other competitions, each of them are exercising their own uh, agency to appropriate this popular text for their own politics. So, in that sense, the images that you showed of that you collected, the college dance and other things, are quite interesting, and there is a rich material to uh, understand the contemporary situation through this text, because it has been popular in the contemporary times in the Marathi public sphere. Thank you for raising all these issues. And also, I had not known about this movie and bringing this to our attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your feedback. I'll surely think on some of the points that you've raised, particularly regarding the agency and how the public sphere, Marathi public sphere, receives the movie. Yeah, surely. Definitely, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarakasar sir. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone who wants to add anything to this ongoing discussion? Any new take or comment?
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you for a lovely presentation, Madhuri ma'am. Uh, uh, I had not watched this movie when it was released in the theaters, but I had heard a lot about this, right? And there were hordes of women going off in groups, kitty parties, and building wale. Everybody used to go and watch this, and dress up also in any kind of costumes. And so I when I watched this movie over the day before yesterday, I was struck by how this became a sort of a sisterhood, planning of deliberate sisterhood is happening, trying to get, trying to come together, maybe to watch the movie or even appreciate the various obviously melodramatic scenes there, and try to identify, okay, this happens to me also or not. I mean, the very basic responses which popular cinema generates amongst theater audiences. That was what was happening. The discussions post movie also in amongst people, amongst women also was the same. Ki, oh my gosh, such a beautiful movie, has captured everything exactly as it is actually. And nobody goes beyond that actual melodramatization, and nobody realizes that there is a lot of stereotypification going on, and very little nuanced understanding of any basic problem. And as is being discussed here, nobody wants a solution. I mean, cinema anyway doesn't provide solutions. It's just puts the problems, it gives it space, or it just speaks about, if the director, the scriptwriter, if anyway, the whole project is about bringing to the fore any particular situation in society, or a problem in society, or just a whatever is there, and one wants to speak in his or her own way about what he or she has seen. In that way, the movie is flawed in many ways. But then if you don't have to pick at the flaws, but just understand, that's just it's something made purely for entertainment, I felt. Something to just go and put your mind aside and go and laugh a bit and cry a bit and understand a bit, and then cluck your tongue a little bit, and all that together, and come away feeling good. Oh wow, what a lovely movie I've seen. And okay, now let's get back to our real life problems and real world problems. Beyond that, if we ask the general movie going public, oh, but this was not there and that was not there, and if you try and discuss it, they would look at you strangely. Arey, what? We do not go to a movie to contemplate on existential crises or anything. So that again brings us back to what do we, I mean, again, they become two kinds of cinema goers then. Those who want to contemplate and reflect, and those who just want to put aside contemplation and reflection and forget anything other than just watching it and coming away having spent a good time and having had a jolly good laugh and a feel good. It's a feel good movie. Many Marathi cinema now, I feel, is being, as you mentioned, all those statistics and the market shares and the kind of business it has done. Very well, the producers, the directors, I feel, knew what they were doing and knew what they wanted to do and what kind of success they needed. And so fashioned their story in a particular way, knowing the many loopholes that it has. They do not want to bother to bridge those gaps at all. That's what I had felt when watching the movie.
Uh, Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but this is in continuation with this madam's observation. I and my wife watched this movie together, and she enjoyed a lot, Madhuri madam. I was so skeptical. I was so critical about the characters and the theme and plot and the way it was moved. It was portrayed, but my wife enjoyed a lot, and she related all the characters with her. She's my number one mousy. She's number two mousy. She's number three mousy. So, I mean, looking at cinema as what we say, a commercial kind of, this is not cinema being what we say, commercial activity. So, when we look uh, from critical or what we say, critics' perspective, cinema can be a different kind of activity. But when we see from it a popular kind of perspective, it appears to be very different, visual media or kind of thing. So how we should look at Baipan Bhari Deva from critics perspective, or from my wife as a populist perspective.
Yes, but I mean, the answer is in a way very obvious, and well, we are not here to give answers as such, but it's also a subjective choice. I feel that sometimes people consider movie-going experience to be an entertaining experience, and they really do not want to get bothered by questions raised in a movie, So it's like paisa vasool kind of films people want. And sometimes people are really happy just by uh, getting deceived by the images on the screen, which appear to be a mirror image of reality, the way your wife responded to the movie. So it's a subjective experience, well, sure, but if one wants to understand that films are or cinema is a cultural product and so much of thinking goes into it, and the choices are made selectively, and whatever we see or whatever we understand in a film is a given meaning. So if we are very clear about this basic understanding of the form, then I think it is not really very difficult to see beyond the image, beyond the screen, and to understand why a particular thing is being presented in a particular and specific manner, and what are the meanings of it. Well, this kind of critical attitude we don't see much in public life also. So it's not easy or even justifiable to expect such attitude from film goers, from audiences, So you just leave it to everybody's choice. What else can you say? And yeah, and Rutu ma'am, when she was sharing her experience, I wanted to I remembered one of my articles written in Marathi. It was published in Lok Satta newspaper in 2023 after the movie was released. It was based on this movie, and I had titled the article as "Kahi Pan Bhari Deva." So anything is good, it's great, Kahi Pan Bhari Deva. So I, of course, criticized the movie on some similar lines, the way I presented it to you today, but this was more nuanced than the article. But the responses that I got for the article, I received more than 40 emails or so. Some people criticized my view of the movie, applying the same logic that if you go for a movie, you should get yourself entertained. Why are you bothering about all these issues and all these questions? And some responses were very heartening at that time. Because they told me that what I was thinking about the movie was actually the right way of thinking about it, And you cannot really generalize about women. You cannot stereotype women. You cannot really have a superficial look at the problems and challenges and confrontations that they have in their lives, and then just reflect on it the way the film does. So, and they also understood that, as Nikhila ma'am was pointing out, that the film appears to be episodic. It looks like a television serial. We are understanding one sister's story, and after that we turn to the other, and later on we are reminded of the competition, and then we rush to the house where they are practicing, etc., etc. In this way the movie takes place. So, and I really wonder the way the six sisters are presented, and the way they are depicted as at different stages of their lives, and um, uh, trying to smoothen their lives in different manners. Um, that itself could have been a very serious subject for some other kind of movie, particularly the sibling rivalry thing, because Jaya and Shashi both are very confident, very brilliant too, and very knowledgeable women, but they are most of the time getting involved into childlike kind of fights. And when Shashi realizes that Jaya has helped her daughter, she comes and she starts crying. So that was a very touching moment. But the director refuses to extend it beyond it. It doesn't give it a leisurely treatment. It doesn't linger there. The camera doesn't show more of Shashi and Jaya and what they really talked, and whether, well, people can say that no words were necessary at that moment, etc., etc. But there are some gaps, and in every film, we see these gaps where the narration refuses to explain something to the audience. For example, we never come to know why no sister asked about Jaya when she suddenly disappeared from the practice scenario. Where did she go? Why did she go? She picks up the call, and then she realizes that Chinu is in some trouble, and the hospital requires her to go there and sign on the form. And she immediately rushes there. But nobody else inquires after her. Where is she gone, and what is she doing, and why is she not present at the practicing house, etc., etc. So all these gaps are deliberately left like that, and we find that things can go in a different way. The story can progress in a different direction altogether if we try to fill the gap then and there. And the film doesn't want that to happen, and therefore deliberate spaces are left just like that. The gaps are left, or weak links are left like that. So it's that way. Sometimes one feels that, I mean, this is a generalized statement, but I would like to make it here in case of Marathi films or even in case of Hindi films, that sometimes if things are explained properly and at a proper time, then no story can really, take place in any film, because there are misunderstandings and miscommunications, and things are not said in time, and that's why people behave or respond in different ways, and the problem gets complicated more and more. So this is how, I mean, there is no answer as such to the question or query that you are raising. Why is it that people are not trying to dwell on these topics, these areas? Why are they refusing? And probably one reason for this could be, which just struck me, could be the illiteracy about the form itself, right? I mean, well, one can describe it in other words, but less knowledge of the making of this art form, or less knowledge about its business-like nature, or its existence as a cultural work of art. If we go into the nuances of its form, its production, its economy, its political existence, its ideology, etc., etc., and how can one literate oneself regarding this? How can we educate oneself? You just need to see more and more movies and think about them and read more, probably. So, but that lacks as a let's say kind of enlightening education for the audience. That lacks it, and that's why sometimes I feel that one needs to take reviews of film or criticism of film very seriously. Otherwise, we cannot really experience the kind of culture of educated audience, informed opinions and educated audiences. And that's why we get to see such movies more and more. Okay, thank you.
There's a small point which I felt I just wanted to point that out also. In the same vein, that the typification, if we are talking about stereotypes, I mean the men shown in the movie also are absolutely not in the foreground at all, and that was something that was received with such glee by the women audiences, and that they are not in the foreground at all, and they are caricatures almost. They may turn into caricatures of the kinds of husbands they prove to be or they are projected. um, that was deliberately done, I felt. And therefore, the melodramatization of the foregrounding of the women also was deliberate and also meant to entertain, also meant to, create box office success. I mean, this is what is the dream of every woman, to be at the forefront and to not have the man subjugate her at all times in the given scenarios. Even supportive husbands, like Jaya's husband is extremely supportive, but he is such a mild and meek man, and he's the kind of difficult situation that he finds himself in regarding his wife's mental health is shown very lightly, very superficially. I mean, the kind of husband that he is, or the kind of support that he may be giving his wife, it's always, he's very good, he's always kind, he's always laughing, he's always smiling. There is no way any person can be that accommodative and that patient, despite everything. I mean, only one side of that man is shown. Only one side of every person, every man is shown there. So those kind of issues also, were what they wanted to see. What women wanted to see was this, and that was a deliberate, I feel, attempt. That was very deliberately done, I felt, to keep every man in the background as much as possible, and create these stereotypes as much as possible. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And perhaps that also got reflected in the audience, because not many men went to see the film saying that this is a film for women. So let them enjoy, So that was also a kind of um, patriarchal gesture from the side of men, so to say. It is women's
Okay.
film, so let them go and see it. And
Right.
yeah, and it's. I mean, they really don't want to make serious movies, right? I mean, they don't really want to do their homework properly regarding the personalities and depictions and things like that. And well, they I think they are very they've cleverly understood the psychological requirements of women folk, so to say. Everybody now is aspiring to get some limelight, some kind of limelight, and even this kind of space where one goes and sees, and nobody will identify oneself with any of the characters without identifying one's own relatives and friends with rest of the characters. That is the game of the movie, I feel.
Right.
Yeah. So that's it. Like well, otherwise you'll have an art movie, so to say. So it won't be equally successful at the box office. So everything is properly calculated there, and uh, uh, giving space to women also, I mean, in this way, which is a sham appearance of women actually in the film, but it helps them to advertise the movie as a woman oriented film, so they are using it from the other side of the table. They're using that logic, that kind of publicity, that kind of visibility of women to promote their movie, when
Right.
actually it is not. When actually it
Right.
is not, yeah.
Correct.
And probably that is, let's say, the job of all of us who want to take movies very seriously, who want to unravel the things that are packed in there. So that's it. This tussle kind of goes on, I feel. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else with any more question or comment?
Um, may I come in?
Yeah, please.
So I really enjoyed the conversation, like the whole hour. I would also like to bring in the idea that this movie came around the same time as Barbie, because we were talking about the idea of materiality and womanhood and all of these things, and about creating a feminine space within the theater. So the coming up of Barbie and the coming up of this movie was very close in time, because I remember seeing the trailer for this film while I went to see Barbie, and everybody in the theater, I went with like my all of my non-male friends, and all of them pointed out like, oh my God, cinema is becoming so feminine, like sort of like those sort of things. We did discuss amongst ourselves about the same thing. So I was really wondering, even when I watched this film finally for this discussion, I was thinking around along the lines of how while the ideas of caste and class are not completely erased, they are sort of renegotiated in a way for the middle class woman and the middle class feminist quote unquote struggle, one might say. Because while it is not possible for a popular film, like a film, to be popular and also to address everything completely politically correctly, otherwise it won't be popular. um it does sort of attempt at creating spaces of renegotiations with the neoliberal middle class, spaces that are outside of the household, for like the idea of a woman, and the idea of a liberated and a liberal woman, I feel like. So it may not be entirely opposing the feminist movement, but it might be just sort of creating a, a sort of pro-capitalistic conversation where feminism can exist, coexist with the ideas of the neoliberal capital market. So that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, it's like, you provide a new vocabulary to women, which appears to be a liberated vocabulary or a vocabulary for freedom and liberation. But basically, it is in the benefit of the market. So I am thinking that these cultural spaces opened up by such cultural productions are actually appropriating the feminist language, the language of freedom, the language of agency, the language of kind of implementing one's decisions, etc., etc. So it doesn't talk in different terms. It talks about the public and the private. It talks about personal is political. It talks about freedom for women. It talks about the space for women, etc., etc., her empowerment, etc. But it in a way simplifies or mellows down the conflict that is required to obtain those spaces and those powers, let's say, that kind of empowerment. So, and it does it with the help of the market. I mean, it directs us to the market for gaining all those conceptual or let's say for gaining all those kind of freedoms, and that is problematic because ultimately, I mean, you get the feeling as if there is choice for you, but you don't understand it at that point that the choices are restricted and they are not selected or made by you, they are made for you by somebody else, by some other agency, and the agency has its own kind of internal or intentions or vexed interests in creating those choices for you. So the final freedom that you are getting is of choice, but choosing in a limited range, which is not in your control, you know. So finally, it doesn't mean that you are getting what you want. You are being offered something and you are just trying to choose from amongst those choices. That is what is happening here. But those who could see through this can understand this. Otherwise, it remains to be a very nice film, as Ruta ma'am was pointing out, that we feel very good, you know, we identify with certain things and we appreciate the talent of the director and the producers to have produced such a movie. So it is that phenomena, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would just like to add that maybe like we may not want to discount the affective sort of like the impact that the film leaves the woman with. Like at the end of the day, they do realize that what they saw was just like a film, and they're sort of what do you call, the suspension of disbelief will end the moment they leave the theater, and they will realize that, like, the happy endings and the very easily tied knots in the film are not actually how their life would play out in the real world. But like maybe just like it does give a sort of again playing into the idea of the market being the area of leisure, but still at some point the effect of an entertainment film cannot be completely discounted, is all I would say.
It seems that one may differ regarding the degree of, that effect or the impact of it, or
Oh, definitely, yeah.
yeah. Yes, true.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with any more comment or question before we close today? Do we have any more comment to make or question to ask? I think this is for today. And before closing today's discussion, I want to offer my vote of thanks. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's discussion. Now, on the verge of closing today's session, I want to convey my warm regards and deep appreciation to everyone present here. On behalf of TFO, I want to thank Professor Dixit for making today's evening so enriching and deeply rooted in our love for cinema. I also want to thank my co-interns for their efforts in making this community active and running. And finally, last but not least, I want to thank Geeta ma'am and Nikhila ma'am for making this platform alive and possible. Now, as we say in the films, this is a wrap, and thank you and good night until we meet again.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Thank you all.
Bye.
Good night, Madhuri. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.